Levy Rozman, aka Gotham Chess. How good is he at checkers? Let's analyze his game and check this out.
First, let me take you over to a real man's game, because while you were playing chess, I was playing checkers.
Despite the sarcasm in this statement, I couldn't agree more.
What are the how are the rules work here? Like, is it whatever? I'll beat you. It doesn't matter.
Bro, it's checkers. They didn't really update it much.
Well, it's not that simple. There are many types of checkers, in which, for example, you can jump backwards and the king can move along the entire diagonals. The most popular and prestigious version of checkers is the international one, 10 by 10, with a larger number of pieces and a larger board. Here, gentlemen are playing American checkers, and by the way, if you want to learn how to play American checkers well, then in the first link in the description you will find my 3-hour beginner's guide to winning strategies in checkers. 30 game lessons for you, and many of them are available for free, so feel free to check them out. Now let's analyze.
I think the only thing to be wary of is you kind of have to move fast. If you move slow, I think it kicks you out.
Okay, let's stop here. Ludwig starts the game by playing here, 10 to 14. And actually in checkers, every first move is possible and playable. But when we are considering finding the best opening move, we should remember that in the opening we should centralize our pieces, because a center is as important in checkers as it is in chess. And looking at your position in the beginning of the game, the weakest piece stands here, in the left bottom corner of each player, because its way to the center is the longest and the only one, through the main diagonal, the longest diagonal of the board. So it makes this move, 11 to 15, the most popular move to start a game, because it opens a way for this 4 to develop. But as I mentioned, everything is playable, and this is the choice of Ludwig. After that, Levy plays here. And that's an interesting thing, because most of the beginners are afraid to lose pieces from the very beginning of the game. But it's not a problem, and sometimes it's even a good tool that you should use to achieve some goals. For example, gaining space to make moves. Or sometimes you can even use the tactical way of sacrificing some of your checkers to get even more of your opponents. That is called a combination, and Levy will mention that in the further part of this video. Ludwig takes.
Idiot.
And Levy takes back to the center, and that's of course a good choice. So I would not call Levy an idiot after this move. This is actually a good one. Ludwig plays here, so this kinda splits your position. So I think this move would be better, because it helps you to centralize your checkers in the first phase of the game. And that is extremely important choice made by Levy. He played here, 31 to 27. Actually, that way he uncovered this square from his base line. And this may cause some problems, some serious consequences in your position, and let me explain you why. Of course, not uncovering your checkers from the first base line is not possible. Many beginners think that after not moving such checkers, it will be impossible for your opponent to get to a king, and that way they will win the game. But of course, in checkers, as you all probably know, all checkers have the same value. And to build a strong formations, a strong position, you must make your pieces cooperate. And leaving 4 out of 12 checkers without moving, without grouping into the structures, the formations, is not the way of play. Of course, you must make it. And the question is, which base pieces are good to move and which are not? Definitely this one standing on 31 can cause problems, like I mentioned. Because, for example, after such move 10 to 15, you can see that now black's position requires to remove this 22 to get 2 checkers to a king. And also white can't make this move 24 to 19, because after it this checker will jump one checker, but also a second one to a king. So you have less possibilities of making some exchanges and of creating a space to make additional moves. So much better move to play in this position is of course using this one, because after 30 to 27, after such moves like 10 to 15, you can still make this exchange in your further moves, and as well you are secured from going to a king by your opponent. So that is something that definitely was even not an inaccurate move, but a mistake. And probably on the Masters level, it would already decide the game.
I can totally see you.
And Ludwig makes the same mistake. Now take a look. There is a structure of three pieces, three checkers working together, that is called a column. And another one is here, 4, 8, 11. And such formations are a good thing in checkers because you can use it to make exchange or combination. For example, 11 to 15. Takes, takes. And after such move that has been played, 2 to 7, this checker is hanging here, and now black can't make this move anymore. For example, here, here, because this is uncovered and white would take to a king. This is something that you must be really, really careful about.
Hiring an arsenal of mind game experts and just bringing
randomly picking a move. This one was chosen, and Ludwig plays here. In general, this is a good move because normally that way you develop your edge checker into the central part of the board that you know already that is good. But sometimes if this checker has no other move to make, it can cause you other troubles because your position will be blocked. In this position, the right move to play is here, 24 to 20, not letting this one to take the edge square 20 by itself. And also there would be a threat of capturing two black checkers to a king after removing this one 11. So this is something that you must judge, predict the future, the possibilities that you can make on the other moves, and that way choose the best move to play. But Levy, as you can see, played this one. And again, those two checkers, 21, 32, that should be developed in the early phase of the game, actually are blocked without having any possibilities of movement. And those two important base squares, 31, 30, are uncovered. And it will be problematic for Levy, as you can see in the next part of this video. So after white is not going to 20, then definitely Ludwig should do that. To that way limit his opponent out of space to play. And after such move, for example, that is really interesting that combination possibilities are created after another central move, 24 to 19. Now black checkers can sacrifice not one, not two, but three of their checkers to perform a combination in a king shot, to achieve a king. And of course, if there were a checker on 2, it would be very simple, sacrificing 1 and collecting 3 to a king. But still, even having here a gap, you can use it to perform a combination. Sacrifice 1 and 2, and the third one to take 3 to a king. But after this combination, this king on 31 can be easily taken by white checkers by sacrificing 1 and taking this king, but this 20 can simply go to a king because many checkers would be exchanged on the right side of the board, and that way it would be possibility to make a breakthrough, which is the way to a king, and it's a very common way of winning checkers games. But actually, that move has not been played by Ludwig. Instead of this, he chose to play here, 8 to 12. Again, this move, 24-20, is probably the best one to play in this position, but without calculating, without seeing what are the possibilities of your opponent, it's impossible to choose the best move to play. Levy decides to make this move, 24 to 19, which is of course not the best one, because the best one was probably to 20, but this one looks okay. That way he created some additional structure, this column for example. You can by the way see how columns are cooperating together. In this case, thanks to the common checker on 23, 2 columns are made using only 5 checkers and not 6. You should make your position, build your position that way. And now Levy controls two important central squares, 18 and 19, out of 4 possible central squares, because other two are here, 14 and 15. After controlling central squares, you control more space on the checkerboard, and that way you limit your opponent's possibilities better. This is something that you definitely should consider playing checkers.
It's huge.
Biggest brain.
And there is this move played. Already I think you could say by yourself if this is a good move or not. You can see that this structure, this column, 3, 7, 10, that could be used, for example, for this exchange, 10 to 15, white would take, black would take, would create some additional space for other checkers to move. For example, 1 to 6, 7 to 10, 4 to 8, etc. Many different possibilities that you can consider on the next moves. Meanwhile, this move, 3 to 8, is creating this hanging checker, and this move, 10 to 15, is no longer possible. As well, this 11 to 15, and from the very beginning of the game, this 9 to 14. So now options of black checkers are very, very limited.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
I can see you being a little bit of a checkers connoisseur.
I'm a connoisseur of all crafts of the mind. While you were playing checkers, I was playing oh no, the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally this move was played. And that way Levy built another structure, this column, 28, 24, 19. But how to recognize if a column is strong or weak? Looking at the possibility of using it. And now the only possibility of using it would be to exchange even forward, crossing the half of the board, playing 19 to 15. If it is possible or not, I don't know yet. It requires calculations.
Yeah.
Ludwig decides to play here, 10 to 14. Still, I think that the best possibility is to play here, 16 to 20, and that way to attack opponent's checker. By making an attack, I mean creating a threat of capturing opponent's checker on the next move. And it requires reaction from your opponent, otherwise the piece will be taken. So this gap, this 27, must be covered by this move, and then, for example, Ludwig could play this one, 11 to 16. Having plan of going 7 to 11 and then creating one working column and the second one that actually was working from the beginning of the game. But this hanging checker on 7 just would be developed, and that would be a good idea. Meanwhile, after this 10 to 14, I'm a bit afraid that this right wing of black checkers will have some serious problems with developing, and something like that we'll see in a few moves.
Yeah, that's a good move, Ludwig.
No, it wasn't.
I like checkers because all the pieces move the same. It's very easy to calculate stuff.
About calculations, it's not so easy because, of course, all the pieces move the same way, but that way, having even less possibilities to calculate than you have in chess, it requires you to calculate deeper. And comparing the master level in chess and checkers, in checkers just after few moves, sometimes even 3, 4 moves, it is possible for the masters or grandmasters to calculate the game even till the end game of the game, till the last moves of the game. So sometimes after just 3 or 4 moves of the game, your depth of calculation is 20, 25 moves to the end game to make the right decision. So it's impossible to play the master level in a quick, short games. It takes time. And that's the reason why tournament games in checkers are sometimes played for hours. And if you would like to listen what another chess player, a legendary chess grandmaster, Vasily Ivanchuk, has to say about checkers and those chess-checkers comparisons, including the depth of calculation and which game is more difficult, chess or checkers, then in the top right you will find a link to an interview I made with him. And finally, Levy makes this move. And this is the best move in the position, I think. That way we have a position called a lock in checkers, and you can see that now those 3 checkers, 20, 19, 23, are locking those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black checkers. Why? Because this move is no longer possible, and once this move is not possible, because after that white checkers simply would take, for example, 2 to a king that way, it means that other checkers, this, and that one, can't move. And once you are locking your opponent, you increase your chances of winning a game. So that is definitely one of the best moves we've seen so far in that game.
Someone's gotta win today, right?
Ludwig played this move, and as you can see, there were not many options for black checkers. Now only this move and this move were possible. And after this one, Levy could play, for example, here, and now the only move for black pieces is to play here, after which, for example, this move can be chosen, and it is done. White checkers win the game, because of not having the possibilities, the space to make moves. After this one, 6 to 10, black saves some possibility of the next move, like for example exchanging 9 to 14, but the question is how the game was played.
Someone's gotta win today, right?
I was just moving the pieces from the back to the front.
And Levy plays it well, 28-24. You can see that white have the possibility of removing 11, for example by playing here 18 to 15 and taking 2 to a king. But then this checker can go to a king and this position is not so clear, so still both sides would have the possibility of winning it. And playing checkers requires being patient, and of course you can prepare this threat on the next moves just to perform it better. For example, after this move 32 to 27, there would be a possibility of sacrificing 18 to 15 on the next move, but in that position black would have played here 11 to 15, and you have two possibilities of capturing. The first one here, after which black takes 2 to the king, and perhaps still it will be equal, or another one to take 2 that direction, then black could make a waiting move, white would take, and black would take 1, 2, 3 to a king, so the position would be still to play for both sides. That is the reason why this move 32 to 27 was not the best one. Of course, looking at other possibilities, this was not the one right move to play, because after that there is a simple combination, 9 to 13. You can force your opponent to capture your piece, and that way you can capture other pieces in other direction. In that example, 2 pieces straight to a king. And that simple analysis leads us to the conclusion that this move 28-24 that has been played was the best move to play in the position.
Same, but listen, there's the...
And now Ludwig plays here 1 to 6, and perhaps that way losing the last possibility of saving some space to play. I think the better option was to exchange here, going forward, and still it is playable for both. After this attack, this attacked piece can be defended by playing to 5, and now there are some possibilities of combinations. For example, after this 25 to 22, black can sacrifice 1 and second one to go to a king. And another combination is after this move, by simply playing here 1, 4, 2 and making the king on the next move. So that was definitely the better continuation to play this game. While choosing the best move, you must always look at what you and your opponent will do on the next move, because after analyzing it in that position and making this move 1 to 6, Ludwig would come to the conclusion that he will be blocked.
There's combos and stuff.
Of course there are.
The only thing I know about checkers is the one clip that pops up occasionally.
Oh, you're in Zugzwang! You're in Zugzwang! Anywhere you move, I win!
There is something like Zugzwang in checkers, of course, but this is not the example of Zugzwang. If you want to see what the Zugzwang is, then another video will be suggested on the top right. This is just blocking your opponent, this is just limiting your opponent out of good moves, out of possibilities, and it happens many times in the beginners games. Why? Because you are afraid of losing pieces. You are afraid of exchanging pieces, of creating a space to play. And this is the reason why something like that happens, I think, in 80% of the games of beginners.
Wait.
Anywhere you move!
Wait.
That was by accident, that was not planned.
Of course, it could be planned if you would calculate 2 or 3 moves ahead, which is not a difficult thing to do. Every game of checkers that you will play will make you a better player. Just make the right conclusions and try to imagine what is going on to happen on the board in few moves.
Yeah, that's the only
damage.
Yeah,
that's least damage.
Least damage. Yes.
So black checkers are forced to sacrifice something. Of course, the goal of the game is to capture all your opponent's pieces or block it. So having one checker of advantage brings you closer to this goal, and no matter which direction in this position white would take, everything is good.
How do I take 1 or do I take 2? Oh my god, check. Oh, I'm nasty. I'm so nasty.
You
Yeah,
took one. Big whoop.
Yeah, but
Big whoop,
make
idiot.
a move, bro. Make a move. Yeah.
I took one too. I took one too.
It gets smoked.
You can see that even sacrificing this checker is not solving black's problems, because sometimes if you make some sacrifice, if you lose checker, but that way you get some space, you get some compensation, it is possible to play, and sometimes even having less checkers, you have the possibility of winning the position if you are blocking, limiting your opponent well. But not in that position, because still this lock we mentioned is working, and those 5 checkers have no place to go. And as well, those 3 checkers now. After this one, there will be a capture here, and after this one, 9 to 14, there will be capturing 2 checkers to a king. So the only checker that black can move right now is here standing on 7.
Oh, I can do this now.
This move is played.
And
Now what do you do?
I do this, bro. You gotta take that.
And Levy plays another exchange. So finally he uses this column he has built in the beginning of the game.
So take it.
And
Wait, why do you have to take? I don't want to.
Cause it's 4. You do know the rule. Now anywhere you move, I take literally everything you own.
of course it is forced to capture. Your opponent is obligated once he has the possibility of capture, and that is the true beauty of checkers, because that way you can lead your opponent move by move to make exactly moves as you want. That way you perform such combinations as I mentioned. And this exchange that Levy made can be good, but also can be not so good. Why? Because it gives some chances, some possibilities to his opponent. By, for example, playing here, 9 to 14. You can imagine that in that position, this checker from 11 could make a double jump once this one on 18 was removed. And you can remove it by playing here, 9 to 14, 2 for 2. And of course, white pieces have an advantage, but after going to king by black, it is playable and it will be much longer and tougher to win it.
Literally. I'm taking it all.
No, because I can do this.
That's a double jump! That's a double jump!
Stop.
Ludwig decides to play here to move those 5 locked pieces, and there is a double jump, but it can be better for black than it was in the game.
Stop yelling.
What? You just giving
That's
me all
actually
your
a
stuff,
good
bro.
move.
Oh no! How the...
And now, after playing this, everything is lost. Actually, last 2 moves of black checkers were good, or at least could be good. Why? Because there is another sequence, the chain of capturing to a king. And the job for black pieces is to remove this one from 15, which actually was possible in that position by playing here, 6 to 10. In American checkers, you of course can't capture backward, and it means that after this jump, black would take 1, 2, 3 to a king. Still, the position is better for white, and they have big possibilities of winning it, but it would let black to play, to stay in the game. Meanwhile, after this 8 to 12, the advantage of many pieces of white is such a big one that there is nothing you can do. So Levy now has 4 pieces of advantage, and that kind of advantage would let him to win even against the world champion. And after this move, when this checker is being promoted to a king and this one from Ludwig, Levy decides to make an exchange to go to another king, and he played it almost perfectly in the endgame.
Alright, now you gotta give me all your pieces.
Yes, and in this final decisive position there is 3 times opposition. So how would I rate those players? Well, that was absolutely normal, ordinary game of checkers beginners, a game like I've seen thousands of them in my life. And there were some good moves, there were some bad moves, mistakes maybe even, but finally Levy has won this game, so he deserves to be rated 3 out of 5, and Ludwig, because of losing it, 2 out of 5. If you think that checkers is a simple and solved game, I assure you that it's not true, and I encourage you to watch this video in the top right. If you like this video, please subscribe to the checkersTV YouTube channel, and see you on the next one. Bye.